I told my daughter to stop having kids because she forces me to raise them. My husband, Rob, and I have two kids, Erica and Mike. Both kids are married, but Erica and her husband, Steve, live near us and this issue concerns them. They work full-time and have two kids, 5 and 4. 5 years ago, my daughter asked my husband and me if we'd be willing to become their full-time childcare so she could continue to work and afford their comfortable life. We agreed, but we didn't discuss much more than watching the baby and their expectations. I was a teacher and retired 2 years before I could take my pension, so my husband continued to work. We made a few sacrifices, like vacations and adding to our savings, but we were able to make it work so that I could take my full pension at 55, and my husband retired a year later. Our arrangement worked, and we enjoyed having the kids except by year 3, which was the start of the pandemic. We started to feel like they were taking advantage of our help. In 2020, during the lockdown, they were both working from home. They expected us to keep the kids all day, but we wanted to split time since their preschool and daycare were closed. We settled on 2 weekdays with them and 3 with us, and my son-in-law complained about it pretty much every day. Things got better when the kids were able to go to school. Fast forward to year 4, 2021, and we had a bit of a blow-up over kindergarten. My daughter didn't want her 5-year-old to start school in the unknown, but I insisted that he needed to go because I needed the break. I also asked for the 4-year-old girl to spend more time at the preschool and daycare program. My son-in-law complained about the cost, but I pushed anyway. They relented. Then, this past spring, my son-in-law pushed for us to take the kids for a week so they could go on a vacation. We said they had to take the kids, and he said they couldn't afford it. Nobody went on vacation. Maybe that's too much background, but I feel like the context is important for what I said. My daughter and I were having a conversation the other day, and she casually mentioned that she had an OB-GYN appointment and tests. I asked if everything was okay, and she said Steve and she were trying for baby number 3. I asked her what her childcare plan was, and she looked at me like I was crazy and said it was me and Rob. I said it would have been nice if she had told me this before trying for another baby, and she said it's none of my business. I said it is if I'm providing 5 more years of babysitting. I then told her that we were not a viable childcare option for a new baby and begged her to reconsider. The 4-year-old is going off to kindergarten, and we feel like we're finally getting our days back to some extent. We refuse to start all over again with a new infant. Erica said we're making her choose between her dream of 3 kids and financial stability. I argued that she has 2 beautiful children and they're financially stable, so they shouldn't ruin that with another baby. I might be the jerk because Erica feels like we should have told her sooner. I feel like I'm not because I never agreed to a lifetime of raising their kids. We'll continue to watch our 2 grandchildren after school and during the summer, as this is what we've agreed to, and we enjoy it. School provides a nice break for us, and then we do fun things with the kids in the summer. We just don't want to start over again with another baby. Okay, just an update to add a bit more context, and I want to answer some of the comments that I'm seeing a lot. To clarify, we're not paid we didn't ask to be. I retired early, but I would have stayed longer if we didn't watch our grandkids. I probably would have put in another 5 years or so because I loved my job. So putting those 5 years into helping my daughter and grandchildren wasn't a problem for me. My husband and I did a good job of preparing for retirement and felt we could swing it. Also, we do take time for ourselves. We require 5 weeks a year at minimum to travel, visit our son, or see other family. We settled on 5 because our daughter gets 3 weeks of vacation a year, and my son-in-law gets 2. At first, my son-in-law complained that he and my daughter would never get a vacation together. We said they would just simply have to arrange other care options if they want time together so we could still have our 5 weeks. We hold them to this, and one time in the past 5 years, his parents came down to stay with them and watch the kids during that week we were away. In terms of telling her to not have another baby, I was trying to make her see everything she does have and to focus less on what she doesn't have. I'd never tell another woman what to do with her body, but she's my daughter, and I don't want to see her hurting. Lastly, my daughter and son-in-law have plenty of money and are responsible when it comes to costs. If anything, my son-in-law is cheap, so I think their version of stability and many other people's is very different. Okay, final update. My daughter came to pick the kids up this evening, and I asked her if we could talk. We were both much calmer this time, and I explained my point of view on another baby and feeling blindsided by her declaration of baby number 3. She said she mentioned wanting 3 after she got married, but I don't recall that conversation. Our talk was productive, and she shared that she's the one pushing for another one while her husband doesn't love the idea but isn't completely against it. She confessed that she doubts she'll still have him on board if he found out they'd be paying for childcare this time around. Her husband grew up on the poorer side and budgets for everything. He worries about losing his job, which is why he complained about the kids being around during COVID, and he also worries about letting his kids down. I said I sympathize more with him now that she's shared this side of their marriage with me. She admitted that I was probably right about another baby, and she's going to talk with Steve tonight about moving forward with this plan, but with the caveat that the baby would be in full-time daycare, with my husband and me helping in emergencies only. We were able to discuss our current situation. I expressed that I felt underappreciated, given everything I've done for her and her family, and she shared that she's jealous she can't be with them instead. I felt for her as a working mom myself, except I had my summers with my kids. She said she had talked to Steve about enrolling the kids in the before and aftercare program come September. We'd take them as we usually do, but we can also send them to the program when needed. I also made sure I gave my grandkids an extra tight hug today. After watching what happened in Naldi, it makes my feelings seem very trivial. I don't think anyone could reasonably call you guys the jerks, and it seems like your daughter is under a bit of pressure from her husband to get as much value out of you guys as possible. I'd say if you did anything wrong, it was accepting a bit too much too early and for too long. I can't fault Erica for wanting to have the best life for her kids, which is what I'm assuming she means by maintaining a comfortable life. But I'm sure that the grandparents in question are spending a bit to look after the two growing, active toddlers for that long, not to mention Grandma giving up a job it sounds like she would have preferred to stay in, just to help her daughter out. I think the clearest signal was the parents in question, wanting to take a nice holiday sans their children. Look, they might be the best, most loving figures while the kids are at home for all I know, but you've got to put in the time as a parent. If you're not prepared to, you probably shouldn't be having a third. A summary of 5 years ago, my then 9-year-old daughter started puberty earlier than others of her age, and body odor was a problem. Foot smell also runs in the family. We started using foot powder for her shoes, but sometimes it just didn't help, and she habitually bounced her foot. When working, being young, she loved wearing flats to school and was in class with a woman that we'll call the rude teacher. The rude teacher pulled my daughter aside before recess and told her that she needed to keep her shoes on because she was making the classroom stink. Then, days later, she called out my child's name in front of the entire class, prompting my child to put her foot down. The teacher thanked her and went on teaching. When I pointed out how embarrassing that was for a 9-year-old who doesn't have control of her body smells right now, the teacher was very blasé about the situation and how she had handled it, and she gave our daughter body issues that she's still dealing with. She's going into 9th grade now. I've never forgiven the rude teacher or gotten over it. Now, to the present day. In May, requests for the upcoming school year were sent out. I requested my second daughter, daughter 2, not be put in the rude teacher's class. I didn't go into detail as to why I just requested that she not be in that particular teacher's class. Teachers were posted today, and lo and behold, daughter 2 is in the rude teacher's class. Daughter 2 has a DHD, gets emotional very easily, and from what I've heard from a friend who subbed for the rude teacher last year, it was a crap show. I have my reservations on how well this teacher would be able to handle daughter 2, or if there would be a similar situation of embarrassment for her. Would I be the jerk if I emailed the principal and asked her to move daughter 2 to the other teacher's class before school starts? I don't want to make her work harder, but I also don't like the approach of just wait and see what happens. My husband, however, feels like we should give the rude teacher another shot, because we'll have 2 other kids going into her class in the future if she's still teaching, and we can't always ask for special placement because of something that happened 5 years ago. So, would I be the jerk? My update. I posted last week and 99% of the comments told me that I wouldn't be the jerk and that I needed to advocate for my child and protect her from a bad teacher. So, I emailed the principal that night and basically said, I'm so sorry. I know teachers just got posted, but I did request that my daughter not be in that teacher's class. Is it possible to have her switched into the other class? The following Monday, the principal called me and, in essence, said there's a lot that goes into making the class lists. Academics have to be considered, similar numbers of boys and girls in each class, making sure if any kids couldn't be in a class together they were split. So, it's just too hard to move my daughter. I told her my side and how I'm sure that nothing would likely happen, but for me personally there's a non-zero chance of her causing undue harm to another of my children. She told me she had talked to the rude teacher many times, and although she had yet to see her teach, the principal knew that the rude teacher is very nice. She had talked to the rude teacher, without naming names, to let the rude teacher know that a parent was concerned about having their child in her class due to previous treatment of a sibling. On Tuesday, I talked to someone from the district that's the administrator for the schools in my area. He asked me about the situation. I told him, and I mentioned that the principal had said it was too hard to switch students, so I was wondering if it was something that the district could do easier. I said that I know all it takes is one bad experience with a teacher to ruin a kid's school enjoyment. He said the district didn't typically override the principal's decisions, but he wanted to talk to her because he agreed that what the rude teacher had said and done was inappropriate, and I shouldn't have distressed about another of my kids being in her class. On Wednesday, the principal called me again. She was very shocked because when we talked, I thought we'd reached an understanding, but she said, I just got off the phone with my supervisor, and well, wouldn't you know it, there just happened to be a second-grade teacher in her office. So the teacher helped the principal find a student who was equal to my daughter, and they talked to the parents. My daughter would no longer be in the rude teacher's class. The principal said, "You know, if you were still having serious reservations about her being in the class, you could have come to me." I said, "I wasn't trying to go above you. You just said it was too hard, so I didn't know if it was something the district could have an easier time doing." She ended with, "Well, we hope to see you back at school night, and if you need anything, please let me know first." Anyway, that's the update. Thanks to everyone for your judgment, insights, and to those of you who shared a bad experience. I'm so sorry that you've had to deal with that. Yeah, I highly suspect that the principal was, more than anything, just trying to avoid having to make the changes and any subsequent switches that might follow. In a lot of administrative jobs, there can be a certain reluctance to work with people who want special treatment and to be known as the person to go to for such things. It creates a whole bunch more work. I do appreciate that. In most schools, they aren't lying, and some thought does go into child placement. But in this case, come on. There was a prior request that the kid not be put in that teacher's class. The principal said, "You could have just come to me." The author did go to them twice, and that teacher's behavior was not cool. Those kinds of comments to a young kid can leave mental scars. Man, I sure as heck remember most of the bad things that happened to me as a 5 to 10-year-old, and I can barely remember my teachers' names from that time. I'm glad you got this sorted. Copywriter will have a hard time finding a job with that resume. Many years ago, I worked at a Kingo, which is now a FedEx office. I often worked graveyard shifts and had to deal with lots of people early in the morning who, to put it nicely, hadn't had their coffee yet. For some context, overnight was the time when long machine runs were printed and tedious finishing work was done. Being the only one working until 6 a.m., when the morning crew started to trickle in, I was often in the middle of something when a customer came in, and it would take me a second to get to the counter to help them. One morning around 5 a.m., I was in the back doing some binding work. I hear the door alarm, and I just put a perfect binding in the heater. This takes about 15 to 20 seconds to melt the glue and bind the pages. I yell from the back, "I'll be right out," and the lady, who we'll refer to from now as the witchy customer, shouts back, "I'm in a hurry." I finish the binding and get up to the counter. "Sorry about the wait. What can I do for you?" "Can I see your resume paper selection?" Our resume papers were literally sitting 6 inches away from her on the counter in a little bound book that had resume paper printed in big, bold letters. I slid the book over in front of her and even opened it up for her. As she flips through it, she proceeds to complain about the color and texture of every paper before asking me the price. I say, 15 cents per copy plus 7 cents if you want to print on the second side. That's expensive. Don't you have any better paper for that price? Sorry, that's our full selection of resume papers. The only other options are plain white copy paper, Astra Brights which are neon colored, or cardstock. Are you going to need this double-sided or single-sided? I could see that she had in front of her a 2-page resume, which is usually printed single-sided. Of course, she asks, which one of those is cheaper? I say, double-sided will be cheaper, but for resumes, our customers usually prefer single-sided. Just give me 50 copies double-sided on the sandstone. I confirm her selection and head back to the copier to complete her order. I print out a proof, and as a matter of quality assurance, I give it a once-over to confirm we're not getting any fuser marks, random spots, streaks, or other things. Then I noticed that her job title on her most recent job was something like copywriter. I assumed she meant copywriter and confirmed as much by reading a bit of the description. I call back, "Ma'am, I noticed your previous job title is..." She interrupts me. "I'd appreciate it if you didn't snoop on my personal information." "I'm sorry, I just noticed a typo. Please just print my order." So I think, okay lady, I printed the entire stack of 50 resumes and was squaring them up when I noticed lorem ipsum duit amit in the last paragraph on the page. At this point, I just had to tell her, right? As I'm walking over to the counter to show her the missed filler text, she yells, "Will you please not crimp the pages? I need to hand those out." I make it to the counter, gently place her copies in a bag and ring her out. She did come back later to complain, but my manager assured her that we don't make it a practice to proofread customer documents, as that's their responsibility. In short, witchy customer won't listen when I try to tell her her resume has lots of typos, so I make her copies exactly as she asked. She probably had a hard time finding a job as a copywriter when she couldn't even spell her own title or proofread her own resume. Yeah, look, you can behave like a surly jerk and we'll hate you for it. That's fine, and we'll just go our separate ways, but if you're going to come back into the print shop and complain that the resume you wrote has typos on it, then you're officially just a crazy person. They even told the author to not look at what they had written. I hope the manager laughed this lady out of the shop. Look, I understand that it seems like she was in between jobs, and this might have been a bit of a financial blow for her in a stressful time. But if you walk around being this hostile to everyone about everything, then nobody's going to help you get out of your financial rut, and in this case, they'll even cheer for your failure. You transformed the clerk from someone willing to help to the opposite of a well-wisher in a matter of seconds. Messy guest trashed their room. I sent evidence of their messy lies home with them. Hey, today I did something out of nothing but pettiness, but I feel I've done the right thing in the long run. Don't get me wrong, this was done purely for my own satisfaction. But reflecting, I feel I'd want to know this sort of thing if I was in the guest's girlfriend's shoes. You'll understand what I mean in a second. I recently started a new job as a housekeeper at a popular chain hotel, and while I'm largely enjoying it, the throw-up rooms from Stag Doss really do irritate me. They always somehow manage to heave their guts out on the only carpeted area of the room, and it puts me behind schedule having to scrub at the carpet. This one room today really took it to the next level, rubbish scattered about, food jammed down the sides of the beds, as well as upchuck patches all over the room. It took a while to get through all of the mess, but towards the end of the clearing, I found a birthday card addressed to the guest on the floor. The card was open and read, "Happy birthday, guest's name. I love you so much. Have a great birthday weekend away. I'm going to miss you so much. Love, Beth." I picked up the card to bin it, and when I closed it, I saw the front raid to my amazing boyfriend on his birthday. My eyebrows immediately raised. I had just picked up multiple contraceptive wrappers, seen the used Johnnies in the bin, as well as finding a pair of used women's undies and a torn dress in the bed sheets. I was originally going to throw the dress and undies away, as they were both clearly torn beyond repair, and the guest had most likely intended for me to do that. But damn, I was mad about the throw-up and crusty food. This poor girl had been cheated on by a man who trashed the hotel room, but luckily for her, he made me mad. I took the torn dress and undies down to reception and logged them into our lost and found with the room number attached. Our system always sends a copy of lost item emails to the emergency contact as well, just in case the guest misses the email. The cheater and his emergency contact will soon receive a friendly email with a photograph of the forgotten items and a description of what they are and where they were found in the room. Who was his emergency contact, I hear you ask? His girlfriend, Beth. If you're going to cheat on your significant other, don't annoy the housekeeper, you wonderful snooping jerk vigilante. Well, it sounds like your jerking might have at least helped Beth dodge a bullet in the long run. As upsetting as the news would have been to her at first, I'm guessing her man wasn't lining up to give the hotel a 5-star review afterwards. But what are you going to do? I have to admit that I didn't think that being a hotel cleaner would involve cleaning up so much spew, as our author seems to detail. You learn more every day in my job. I hope that the man in question enjoyed his raucous night of throwing up substances and alcohol-hazed bedroom activities, but I'm not sure it was worth it. Anyway, this is a big story. Let me know what you would do in this situation. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel with notifications turned on. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.